breakthrough is waiting on the other side of your persistence. Working on yourself, watching that inner dialogue, it will determine the quality of your life, because you are creating your own production. You are the star of your show. You are the director. You are writing the script. And you will determine whether your life is a smash box office hit or a flop. You begin to realize that your dream and your gifts have so much meaning, so much value for you. Your hunger for them will begin to push you past the fear. Your hunger to have them will give you a special drive. You want to become a risk taker. You want to raise the bar on yourself. Most people won't do that. Most people are going to think you're weird. They're going to think you're crazy. People are going to think you're crazy. Get away from people in your life who are hating. Get away from your family members that ain't ever opened a business. Get away from your family members that ain't ever followed their dream. Get away from them. Don't expect people to understand you. Don't expect it to make sense to anybody why you've got to do this. There are some people who won't like you. Who do you think you are? You're arrogant. You think you can do that? You think you can get away with that? I'm fighting with folks who not even fighting, but they got something to say about how we fight. You're not even fighting. You ain't doing nothing. And for those of us who get up and go out, you got something to say about how we do what we do. Stop talking to us who are performing. Stop critiquing us. Stop telling us what to do and how to do it. Build the kind of life that says, I told you so, without having to say a fucking word. Every fucking negative comment should trigger you into productive action. Every time somebody says something to you, you should go do whatever it is that is going to make them have to eat their words. Right then, right now, I've had my haters. I've had people who've come against me, who tried to sabotage me. I'm like the lion. I'm not the gazelle. I don't need something external to motivate me. I find something within. That's what lions do. Lions don't cry. Lions don't give up. Lions don't quit. Lions hunt. That's what we do for a living. I must be the greatest, not because I'm cocky, but I gotta tell myself I'm the best. If I'm gonna be the best, I gotta believe in me before anybody else believes in me. Arise, get your butt up. You don't belong at the bottom, and it's time for you to get your butt from down there. It's time for you to stop being comfortable at the bottom. Get your butt up and get to where you're supposed to be. This ain't time to be whining. This ain't time to be crying. This is time to get focused. Once you start questioning yourself, you've already lost. Once you start going into a state of depression and start being by yourself, and you start wondering, once you start wondering, you already lost. Even if you don't believe, you have to believe in yourself. You have to believe in your product. You have to believe in your service. And you have to sell you every day. The biggest sale I make every day is that Les Brown, you can do this. I can beat this. If other people can do it, then it's possible that I can do it. You're going to break records. You're going to do some things when you challenge yourself, when you work on yourself, because you don't get in life what you want. You get in life what you are. If you want to improve your income, you want to improve your circumstances, you want to improve your life, you got to first improve yourself. Spend more time on yourself than what you've been spending, working on yourself, talking to yourself, overcoming the negative conversation, that inner dialogue that's going on all the time, all the time. It's very important. You owe that to yourself, learning how to empower yourself. You've got to make a conscious, deliberate, determined effort to stand up inside yourself. There is no testimony without a trial. It is supposed to be hard. That rough process is necessary. It's what makes you who you are. You've got to be flexible. You've got to be versatile. And you've got to be adaptable. You've got to deal with circumstances and such as you find them. Why? Because a lot of stuff is going to be thrown at you. Many times you're not going to have time to prepare. Sometimes people will come out of nowhere with stuff, and you've got to stand up inside of yourself and handle it. You got to trust that you're going to be all right. You have no evidence to support it. It doesn't make sense. You can't point to anything and say, well, this is why. There's no logic in it. There's no way you can logically, practically, realistically support it and prove it. That's why you got to have faith, and you got to have trust somehow, some way. You've got to have that you're going to come through. What is it that will make it worth it for you to face the rejections when you want to give up and things are working against you? What is it that will make it worth it for you to brainstorm, to not be intimidated, to say, I can do this? What is it that will make it worth it for you to raise the bar on yourself and say, I got some more stuff in me? What is it that will help you get back up again? You better go inside. You're still looking outside for the stuff that's already inside. You're still looking for someone to save you. When you're already your superhero, you're looking for information from somebody. When you already got what you need in your head, it's just time for you to get up and be the best version of you. When you get your butt knocked out, the only way you can get back up is from the inside out. I got what it takes. I got average skill, but I got phenomenal will. I have the ability to do it. I will. I have the willpower to make it happen. I must. Somebody's counting on me. You know what I hear? I hear the clock ticking and time waits from no man. Life goes by, and it goes by quick. Don't waste those years. Don't waste them, live them. I want you to be terrified of sitting on the sidelines and doing nothing, waking up in 6 days or 6 weeks or 6 years or 60 years and being no closer to your goal. You've made no progress. That is the nightmare. That is what you really need to be afraid of, being stagnant. So get up and go. That idea isn't going to execute itself. That book isn't going to write itself. Those weights out in the gym, they aren't going to move themselves. You have to do it, and you have to do it now. Don't wait anymore. Don't think anymore. Don't plan anymore. Don't contemplate anymore. Don't make any more excuses or justifications. Don't rationalize anything else. No, take the risk. Take the gamble, take the first step, take action now. No complacency, no backing off, no slack whatsoever. No more dreaming. Dreaming is over. I need specifics. What are you doing on Monday? What are you doing on Tuesday? What are you doing on Wednesday? You need to be very specific. It's time to put your pieces together of your puzzle. You need to be in a big damn hurry. Time is running out on you. There's 86,400 seconds in a day. The separator between me and you and people that win and lose is what we do with those seconds. And you're too slow, you're too casual, you think too much. You need to get in a hurry because there's an end of your life and it's coming. Sooner than you think. It goes by in a flicker, and at some point it's going to be over. And we want to make a conscious, deliberate, determined effort to start living life with a sense of urgency and using what we've got. Using ourselves up, sharing what we brought into the universe to share. Because if we don't, nobody else will stop wasting valuable time. If we begin to live our lives as if each day where our lives will take on a whole new meaning when you die, when life is over for you. I don't want you to have one idea left in you. I don't want one dream left in you when you die. I want you to go for broke. Every seed that you were supposed to do, every book you were supposed to write, I want you to get everything out, your system. We get one shot at this gig right here, life, so do not wait, go forward, no more waiting for the perfect moment, and no more indecision and no more lies. Take the action, get out of bed, get your feet on the ground, step forward, give every day everything. You've got every ounce of energy, every bead of sweat, every drop of blood until your last breath, and don't let another day slip by you. He waited his whole life for one sentence from his father. Ever since he was a boy, Ethan chased approval. Every grade, every award, he'd rush home waiting to see a smile, or maybe hear, "I'm proud of you, son." But his father, a man of few words, only nodded or said, "Keep going." No hugs, no warmth. Just silence wrapped in discipline. Ethan grew up with quiet doubts. Am I enough? Years passed. He became successful. He had a family of his own now. Still, something felt missing. One evening his dad visited, saw Ethan's little boy, run up laughing, saw Ethan kneel, hug him tight and whisper, "I'm proud of you, buddy." His father turned away, his eyes misted, and softly said, "I never said it enough, but I'm proud of you too." That moment broke something in Ethan, not in pain, but in relief. Sometimes healing comes late, but it still heals. Even the hardest hearts soften when love speaks at last. They hadn't spoken in years, until one moment changed everything. Daniel hadn't seen his father in almost 6 years. Their last words were during a fight, harsh, cold, final. His dad had said, "If you walk out, don't come back." And he didn't. Years passed. Daniel became a father himself, but something always felt incomplete. Then one night, after putting his own son to bed, he looked at the tiny hand wrapped around his finger and broke down. He picked up the phone and called. His father answered after 2 rings. Silence. Then, "Hey, it's been a while." A week later they met at the old park. No long speech, no anger, just a long, tight hug. Years of silence melted away in that embrace. They cried, not out of pain, but for all the time they had lost. It wasn't perfect, but it was a beginning. Healing begins with one brave step, even if it's just a call. He thought his dad didn't care, until he opened his wallet. Ryan always felt distant from his father. They barely spoke. His dad worked long hours, came home late, and said little. Ryan assumed he's just cold, doesn't care. Years passed. Ryan left for college. Their calls were short, rare. He didn't visit much. Then one day, the call came. His father had passed away from a silent heart condition. Ryan returned home to handle his belongings. Quietly, he opened his father's worn-out wallet. Inside it, behind old receipts and ID cards, was a folded, faded photo, Ryan's high school picture. On the back, in messy handwriting, "My reason to keep going." Ryan dropped to his knees. He had no idea. All this time, his father had carried his face, his memory, his pride, in his pocket. Sometimes love is silent, but always there. He ignored his father's calls for weeks, until one message shattered him. Jacob was busy. College, part-time job, friends, everything moved fast. His dad called often, left voicemails like, "Just checking in, son. Proud of you." But Jacob rarely picked up. He'd think, "I'll call later." Later never came. One night after a party, Jacob saw a missed call again. "Dad." Another voicemail. This time his dad's voice was slower, softer. "Hey, buddy. Don't worry, I just wanted to hear your voice. I know you're busy, just take care of yourself, okay?" Something about it felt different. Jacob paused. His gut sank. He called back. No answer. He called again. Still nothing. The next morning his uncle called. His father had passed away in his sleep. Jacob sat alone in silence, replaying the voicemail over and over, wishing he had answered, wishing he had said, "I love you," one last time. Don't wait until it's too late to answer the ones who love you most. He thought hiding his failure would protect his father, but it broke him instead. Every year, David's dad asked the same thing. "Just give your best. That's all I ask." But this time, David didn't. He skipped classes, hung with the wrong crowd, failed 2 subjects. When the report card came, shame flooded him. He couldn't bear to show it. He slipped it into his backpack and lied. His father smiled proudly that night, cooked his favorite meal, and said, "I know you'll do great things." David felt the weight of every word. That night, he couldn't sleep. He stared at the ceiling, imagining the disappointment. in his father's eyes. The next morning, with trembling hands, he placed the report card on the kitchen table. Then he sat and waited. His father came in, picked it up quietly. No yelling, no anger, just a hug. And this. Now let's figure this out together. A real father doesn't expect perfection, just honesty and effort. He never understood his father's struggle until he walked a mile in his boots. Jake always rolled his eyes when his dad said, "Someday you'll understand." To him, his father's life was simple. Work boots, early mornings, and dirty hands. Jake wanted more. Designer shoes, office jobs, city life. He promised himself he'd never end up like that. One summer, his father got injured and couldn't work. Bills piled up, groceries ran low. Jake stepped in just for a week. He laced up his dad's old work boots. The factory was loud, the shifts were long, his hands blistered, his back ached. On day 3, he cried in the bathroom, but every night he saw his father's photo next to his mum's medicine bottle and remembered who this job had kept alive. On payday, Jake didn't spend a dime on himself. He placed the cash in his father's drawer, then quietly whispered, "Thank you, Dad, for everything." Sometimes, to truly respect someone, you have to walk in their pain. He thought his dad was just a janitor until he opened that lunchbox. Noah always felt a little embarrassed. While other kids' dads wore suits, his wore overalls. Every afternoon, Mr. Walker would drop by Noah's school, mop in hand, sweat on his brow, and a metal lunchbox in the other. Noah would look away, pretending he didn't notice. He never told anyone his father worked there. One day, while cleaning out his locker, Noah accidentally grabbed his dad's lunchbox instead of his own. Out of curiosity, he opened it. Inside wasn't just food. There was a crumpled photo of Noah winning a science fair. A note, "One more shift today, all worth it if he smiles." Underneath, a bank envelope marked, "Noah's college fund." Noah froze. That day, he ran to the janitor's closet. He hugged his dad with tears in his eyes and said, "You're my biggest hero." Never be ashamed of who raised you. Their love built your future. One mistake almost ruined him, until his father did the unthinkable. Liam had always been the quiet one, smart, disciplined, and respectful. But one bad decision in college changed everything. Wrong friends, wrong place, wrong time. He was caught shoplifting, pressured by a group of guys he barely knew. The police called his father. At 2 a.m., Mr. Harris showed up. He didn't yell. He didn't curse. He just looked Liam in the eyes and said, "We're leaving. You're better than this." Back home, Liam waited for the lecture. Instead, his father handed him a shovel. "What's this?" Liam asked. "You're going to fix the garden you once loved. Every weed, every rock. Start over, just like your life." Day after day, Liam worked. No phones, no distractions. And one day, he found himself again. That summer, he didn't just fix the soil, he rebuilt his soul, all because his father chose love over punishment. A father's silence can be louder than anger and stronger than judgment. His son never knew what his father gave up until years later. Ethan grew up in a poor home, but he was ambitious. When he got selected for his first corporate interview, he was overjoyed until he looked at his wardrobe. Nothing fit, nothing looked right. He sighed. Maybe next time. His father, a quiet carpenter, heard him. The next morning, Ethan found a brand new suit hanging on the door. Perfect size, perfect style. He hugged his dad and asked, "How'd you afford this?" His father smiled and said, "Just used some savings." Years later, after his father passed, Ethan was going through the old workshop. He noticed something strange. The toolbox, the same one his dad had used every day, was missing. A neighbor told him, "Your dad sold all his tools that week, said it was for something important." Ethan broke down. realizing his father gave up the very tools that fed them to help him chase a future. Fathers build dreams they may never live to see. He thought his father never understood him until he found the letters. Logan always believed his father never supported his dream of becoming a writer. His dad, a factory worker, often said, "You need a real job, son." So Logan left, home with bitterness in his heart. Years passed, rejections, struggles, silence. When his father passed, Logan returned home only out of duty. While cleaning the attic, he opened an old wooden box. Inside were dozens of unopened letters, all addressed to him. Each one was written in his father's handwriting. The first letter read, "Son, I may not understand your dream, but I believe in you, every day, always." Tears filled Logan's eyes as he read letter after letter. Love, pride, hope, all hidden behind silence. He wept, realizing his father hadn't failed to support him. He just didn't know how to show it. Some love is silent until it's read. He never knew that dinner would be their last one together. Ryan had been too busy for his father lately. Meetings, deadlines, and constant travel filled his schedule. His father, now retired and living alone, would call just to ask, "Dinner? Sometime soon," Ryan would always respond. "Soon, Dad, I promise." One weekend, Ryan finally agreed. They sat at their favorite diner, the same one they went to when Ryan was a kid. His dad was slower now, quieter, but his eyes were full of joy. They laughed, shared stories, and his father paid, just like he always did. As they hugged goodbye, his father said, "That was perfect, son. Just perfect." 3 days later, Ryan got the call. His father had passed peacefully in his sleep. That dinner was their last, but it became the memory he cherished the most. Don't wait. One day, a later becomes never. His father's hands were always rough, but they built more than a home. Ethan grew up in a house his father built. Literally. Every brick, every nail, every inch of paint was touched by his father's tired hands. A construction worker by day and a handyman by night, Mr. Blake never took a vacation. Ethan wanted more, to move to the city, chase success, never look back. He hated the dirt, the tools, the smell of cement. One evening, packing for college, Ethan noticed his father sitting on the porch, staring at his calloused hands in silence. "Are you okay, Dad?" Ethan asked. His father smiled faintly. "These hands couldn't give you luxury, but they gave you the ground to stand on." Years later, Ethan stood on a stage, receiving an award for his first architectural design. He looked down at his own clean hands and whispered, "It all began with yours, Dad." Some dreams are built by hands that never touch them. Every day his father carried the same suitcase, but no one knew what was inside. Daniel's father, Mr. Harris, worked as a janitor at the same train station for 25 years. Every morning, without fail, he carried a small brown suitcase. People joked about it. Some even teased him. Daniel, a teenager back then, always asked, "Dad, what's in the suitcase?" His father would just smile and say, "Something that matters." Daniel felt embarrassed. His friends' dads were engineers, businessmen. His was mopping floors, quiet, invisible. On graduation day, Daniel gave a speech as valedictorian. His father stood in the back, still in uniform, holding that old suitcase. After the ceremony, his dad handed it to him. Daniel opened it slowly. Inside were every one of Daniel's report cards, childhood drawings, medals, even rejection letters. All carefully saved. At the bottom was a note. "Everything I carried was for you to fly. This was my dream, watching you become yours." Daniel wept, holding the suitcase tight. He realized the weight of a father's love isn't always measured in words, but in the quiet things he carries alone. Some fathers don't say much, but they carry everything. His son never noticed until one rainy night. James grew up thinking his father just didn't care about style. Same shoes, same jacket, every year. At school, James had fresh sneakers every semester, always the best. One rainy evening, James came home early from practice and saw his dad drying his shoes with newspaper. They were torn. The sole was half detached. James froze. His father looked up and smiled. They still do the job. That night, James realized those old shoes carried every sacrifice his dad ever made just to keep James walking proud. Some fathers wear struggle-like shoes so their kids never walk in pain. He waited 20 years for this car, but gave it up in a second. Tom worked overtime for 2 decades, saving for his dream, a vintage red Mustang. He finally bought it when he turned 50. It was spotless, polished, his pride. But a month later, his son got accepted into a top art school, and they couldn't afford the tuition. Without saying a word, Tom sold the car the next morning. When his son found out, he broke down. Tom smiled and said, "Dreams are meant to be driven, just not always by us." That Mustang was his dream, but his son's future was the road he'd rather see shine. The greatest dreams we fuel are not always our own. He found a letter that changed everything, years after his father died. Daniel grew up thinking his father never believed in him. No praise, no hugs, just silence and rules. When his father passed, he felt free, but empty. Years later, while cleaning the attic, Daniel found a sealed envelope inside an old toolbox. It was addressed to him. Inside was a letter. His father had written it after Daniel's first failed exam. It said, "I know you'll rise, you always do. I just didn't know how to say it." Attached was a childhood drawing of Daniel, wearing a crown. That day, Daniel cried harder than ever before, because sometimes love is silent, but never absent. Some fathers don't say it, but they feel it more than words ever could. He wore those shoes with pride, but never knew the cost behind them. Jacob always wanted a pair of limited edition sneakers. Everyone at school had them, except him. He never asked, because he knew his dad worked 2 jobs just to keep the lights on. One morning he woke up to find the sneakers on his bed, brand new, his size. He ran to his dad with excitement, but found him quietly packing his old boots for work. His father had sold his watch, the only gift his late wife ever gave him, just to buy those shoes. Years later, he keeps those shoes in a glass box, not because they were expensive, but because of what they cost. Behind every gift from a parent is a sacrifice you may never see. He missed the biggest day of his life for the man who gave him everything. Liam was graduating top of his class, scholarships, honors, proud teachers. But when the day arrived, he didn't show up at the ceremony. While others took the stage, Liam was at a small mechanic shop, wearing oil-stained clothes beside his father. His dad had fallen sick the night before, too weak to open the shop, too proud to ask for help. Liam made the choice instantly, because when he was 6, his dad missed a surgery just to attend his school play. Now, it was Liam's turn to show up. Later that evening, he gave his dad the diploma and whispered, "This is yours too. Success means nothing if you forget who helped you get there." He stood outside his son's office every single day. Mark's father used to walk him to school, holding his hand every morning. As Mark grew older and got a job, he moved to the city and rarely visited. But his father missed him deeply. So every evening he took the bus and stood quietly across the street from Mark's office, just to catch a glimpse of him. He never said a word, didn't want to bother him, just watched from a distance, smiling, proud. One evening, Mark's colleague asked, "Isn't that your dad who waits outside sometimes?" Mark froze. By the time Mark rushed out, his father was gone, and that was the last day he ever came. Don't make your parents wait too long. One day they won't be there. He ignored his father's last call, and it haunts him every day. Ryan was too busy, chasing deadlines, friends, success. One night, his father called. He saw the phone ring and let it go. Dad always calls. I'll call back later, he thought, but there was no later. That night, his father passed in his sleep, no warning, no goodbye. Ryan found a voice message the next morning. Just wanted to say I'm proud of you, son. Always have been. He dropped to the floor, phone shaking in his hand. The man he ignored was the man who loved him most. Since that day, Ryan listens to that message every birthday, because it's all he has left. Don't wait. Say what matters while you still can. He was ashamed of his dad until the truth shattered everything he thought he knew. Liam always avoided talking about his dad. He was the school janitor, mopping floors while kids laughed behind his back. Liam hated it. Then one evening, rummaging through an old box, he found a faded newspaper. Front page, war hero saves 12 soldiers under fire. The name, John Matthews, his father. Stunned, Liam asked his mum. She said softly, "Your dad gave up medals and fame to be with you every day." That night, Liam stared at his dad's work boots, now symbols of quiet strength. At school, he walked up to his friends and said, "Yeah, my dad's the janitor, and a damn hero too. Never be ashamed of humble greatness. It's the rarest kind." His father passed away, but left behind a letter that changed everything. After his father's funeral, Ethan wandered into the old garage. He sat beside the toolbox they'd used together, dusty, untouched. Inside, he found a folded piece of paper labeled, "For my son." It read, "I may not have left you money, but I left you strength, patience, and these hands. Build your life with them." Ethan cried. He had been ready to give up on his dream of becoming a carpenter, but those words brought him back to life. He started small, working on furniture late at night, using his dad's old tools. Years later, his handmade pieces were sold across the country. Every piece he built carried his father's initials, carved quietly, just like the letter said. Sometimes the strongest inheritance is belief. They used to laugh at his father's name until he made it legendary. Jason grew up hearing whispers, "That's the mechanic's son." Kids laughed when his overalls had oil stains. They joked about his father fixing cars while theirs drove luxury ones. But Jason wasn't ashamed. He watched his dad work with pride and grit. He studied engineering, worked nights, and built his own startup from scratch. Years later, his company designed engines for the same luxury brands. At the launch event, he said proudly, "I learned everything from my first teacher, my father, the mechanic." The crowd stood in silence, then erupted in applause. His father, in the front row, wiped away tears. "Don't run from your roots. Grow from them." His father made a promise on his deathbed. The son never forgot. As a child, Lucas saw his father work 3 jobs just to keep the lights on. One night in the hospital, his father, weak and fading, whispered, "Just promise me one thing. Never give up on your dream, no matter what." Lucas nodded through tears. Years passed. He failed, got rejected, and nearly quit multiple times. But every time he was down, he remembered that whisper. He studied harder, worked longer, and kept going until one day, standing on a graduation stage with honors, he whispered back, "I kept my promise, Dad." Lucas looked up, smiling through tears. A seat in the crowd was empty, but he felt his father there. A father's promise lives on in his son's fight. He thought his dad didn't care until the truth came out. Ethan always wondered why his dad came home so late. missed dinners, missed birthdays, even missed his graduation. He felt ignored. One night, after an argument, Ethan shouted, "You only care about work!" His father stayed silent. Years later, after his father passed, Ethan found a worn notebook in his dad's drawer. Inside, every page had a date and a single sentence: "Overtime today, saving for Ethan's future." Every missed moment was a silent sacrifice. Ethan broke down holding that notebook. He realized his father wasn't distant. He was devoted. Some fathers show love not through words, but through sacrifice. He ignored the last call and never forgave himself. Liam had just landed his first big job in the city. Busy, ambitious, always on the move. One evening his phone rang. It was Dad. Liam glanced at it. "I'll call him tomorrow." But tomorrow never came. The next morning, a call came from home. His father had passed in his sleep. Liam rushed back, shattered. On the table, next to his dad's bed, was a sticky note. It said, "So proud of you, son. Just wanted to hear your voice one more time." Liam clutched the note with trembling hands. His heart screamed for one more call, one more chance. Don't let success silence the people who made it possible. He never understood his father until he wore his shoes. Ryan always criticized his dad for being slow, quiet, and poor. He wore the same old shoes for years, patched, worn, and dull. Ryan often said, "Why don't you act like other dads?" His father only smiled. "One day you'll know." When his father passed, Ryan found those same shoes in a corner. Out of curiosity, he put them on and noticed something odd: a thick layer inside, made of stitched bills and old receipts. Every layer told a story. Lunch skipped, socks patched, bills delayed, all to buy Ryan books, school fees, dreams. Ryan looked at the shoes and whispered, these weren't just shoes, they were his sacrifices. Tears finally fell. Before judging your father, try walking in his shoes. His father left nothing behind, or so he thought. Jason's father worked 12-hour shifts at a factory. He never bought new clothes, never took a break. All so Jason could study in the city. Jason always wished his father had done more with his life. At the funeral, the lawyer handed Jason an envelope. Inside was a key. Confused, he followed the instructions to a storage unit. Inside, his father's old toolbox, lunchbox, and a dusty safe. He opened it. Inside were decades of savings and a letter. My life was simple, but your dreams, they were everything to me. Jason fell to his knees, holding the letter to his chest. He whispered, he gave me everything and asked for nothing. Real love is silent sacrifice. He told his father to stay away. Then life hit him hard. Liam grew up embarrassed by his father, a quiet man who sold vegetables on a cart. He hated the smell of the cart, the worn-out clothes, the whispers from classmates. One day, in front of friends, he snapped, "Stop following me! You're not even educated!" His father just nodded and left. Liam moved to the city for university, chasing respect. Years passed. One day, a call came. Your father passed away. At the village, a box waited for Liam. Inside, a tattered notebook full of savings logs and letters never sent. Every entry ended with, "For Liam's future." Liam collapsed. Beside the cart, now broken and unused, he whispered, "I rejected the man who gave up everything for me." Never be ashamed of the roots that raised you. He showed no tears at the funeral, but one sound broke him completely. Aaron's father, Thomas, was a janitor at the local school. Every day he mopped floors while Aaron studied upstairs. The kids laughed at Aaron. "Your dad cleans toilets." But Thomas never flinched. He'd say, "Work is work, son. Do it with pride." Aaron stayed silent, ashamed. Until years later, after college, he got the call. His father had passed away. At the funeral, Aaron didn't cry, not once. But when he walked past the old school building, He heard a janitor's cart squeak on the floor, just like his dad's. That sound broke him. He fell to his knees, tears finally falling. He gave me everything. I gave him shame. From that day, Aaron funded scholarships for children of janitors. Never be ashamed of the hands that built you. His father's last words didn't break him. They built him. Ethan's father was a truck driver, quiet, strong, and always tired. Every weekend they sat by the roadside fixing the old truck together. Ethan once asked, "Why do you work?" "So hard, Dad?" His father smiled. "So you won't have to." Then came the accident. One rainy night, Ethan got the call. His father was gone. At the funeral, Ethan opened a folded letter left in the glove box. "Son, if you're reading this, I didn't make it, but you will. Promise me one thing. Never waste your gift." Ethan knew what to do. He picked up his father's wrench and started his own auto engineering firm. On opening day, Ethan placed that letter in a frame. Right under it, he carved the words, "You didn't fail me, Dad. You fueled me." Sometimes, a goodbye becomes the start of greatness. His father's dream was crushed until the son rebuilt it in silence. Jacob grew up watching his father work day and night on a small garage. His dream was to turn it into a real auto shop. But bills, sickness, and time wore him down. Eventually, the garage closed. His father smiled less and talked even less. Jacob never forgot that look in his dad's eyes. So while working a job and studying late into nights, Jacob saved every dollar. He learned everything about business, and one day, without saying a word, he handed his father a key to his brand new auto shop, rebuilt on the same spot. His father stood frozen, tears in his eyes. "You never stopped believing in me," Jacob replied. "You believed in me first." Sometimes the greatest gift is to finish what they started. She asked for books. He came back without his bike. Liam Carter was only 15. He didn't have much, but he loved one thing, his bike. Every evening he'd ride through the hills after working at the repair shop. One day his younger sister came home crying. She couldn't go to school, no books, no supplies. Liam stayed quiet. That night he cleaned his bike one last time. The next morning he sold it and returned home with a school bag full of books. His sister gasped, "But your bike?" He smiled. "You're worth more than 2 wheels." Years later, his sister became a teacher. During her first class, she held up a photo, her brother standing beside the bike. "This is the reason I'm here today. Real love sacrifices silently and never asks for credit." While his friends slept, he was lifting crates with his father. Ryan Brooks was only 14, but his morning started before the sun. At 4 a.m., he helped his father unload fruit at the market. No breakfast, no complaints, just silent teamwork between father and son. His hands were rough, his eyes heavy, but after every shift he rushed to school. Never late, his classmates had no idea. They only saw the quiet boy who never spoke much. What they didn't know? He used his breaks to study. He didn't want to be rich. He just wanted to give his dad a break one day. Years later, Ryan bought his dad a shop. As he handed him the keys, he said, "Now you can sleep in, Dad. I got us here." Hard work in silence. One day speaks loud enough for 2. His father was dying, but what he said changed his son's life forever. Ethan sat beside his father's hospital bed, gripping his cold hand. They had always struggled. No savings, no big house, just love and survival. As machines beeped, his father whispered, "Son, I'm sorry I couldn't give you more." Ethan's eyes filled with tears. But his dad continued, "But I gave you my time, my values, and the strength to fight. That's worth more than gold." Those were his last words. Ethan cried for days, but then he woke up and remembered every lesson his dad taught. Work hard, stay kind, never quit, And he didn't. Years later, Ethan became a successful engineer. Every trophy on his shelf, he carved his father's initials into the bottom, so he'd never forget who built his foundation. Legacy isn't money, it's the values you leave behind. While others played after school, he stacked shelves. Jacob Miller was just 13 when his dad lost his job. Bills piled up. His mom took extra shifts, but it wasn't enough. So Jacob started working at a local grocery store every afternoon, stacking boxes, cleaning aisles, earning just enough to buy food and help with rent. His classmates teased him, said he'd always be a stock boy. But Jacob studied every break, reading textbooks behind the counter. The store manager noticed and gave him used SAT prep books. Jacob kept going, tired, stressed, but focused. He aced the exams. Then a letter came. Full scholarship to a top university. Today Jacob runs his own business, but he still visits that little store, not to work, but to donate scholarships for kids just like him. Sacrifice now, so you never have to struggle again. He didn't need luck.